3, 2, 1, let's go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Unshackled by Shambhavi, and today we're going to talk about how people pleasing got me nowhere. If you watched my previous videos, you know that I used to be this deeply people pleasing person. If you didn't, I'll tell you that I was like that. And that part of me still shows up sometime. But because I know what to look for, I'm aware of it, I'm able to, it doesn't take over me. I don't people please anymore. And it's such a funny thing. When I stopped people pleasing, I got everything I asked for. Which is so bizarre, right? Like growing up, I got conditioned into believing that my value, I can only be loved if I'm providing some kind of value, right? And it has to be according to what the other person wants. I learned that from my parents primarily, but then also from the other adults and peer mates around. So I made myself like that, I used to prioritize everybody else's need, feeling that if I didn't, they will abandon me, because that's what I learned, And look, everybody, all relationships are inherently a little bit of transactional, right? That you do bring some kind of value in their life, that's why you're together. And that's all right, and that should happen. But it cannot be so deeply and only transactional. You cannot be with someone, it's basically abuse. If you're manipulating, if you know someone is going to do something for you, and you do that. For instance, my mother used to do a lot of silent treatment, and people who have been through some kind of abuse and have learned the language know what that means. So I learned that if I did anything that didn't please her, it was a bad thing and I'll not receive love. And I just internalized it so much that I became this deeply people-pleasing person. Also, my bullying and all those other things were a part of it. I basically had no friends growing up, so eventually I figured that I had to change myself to find friends, which is what I did. And it's a whole lot of layers, but basically all these conditionings made me a people-pleasing, a deeply people-pleasing person who deprioritized anything that she wanted. To the point that at one point I wouldn't even be able to tell you what I wanted. It was that bad, right? And look, all I wanted then, all I want now is the same thing. I wanted love, real love, to be accepted as who I am. I wanted my parents to love me, regardless of if they agreed with what I did or didn't do. We can have that conversation, but that's a different conversation. I wanted them to support me. I needed unconditional support and love from people. And that's still what I want. I wanted a partner. I look in my life and I know that I envision a life with a partner, I always wanted that. And initially I gave up so much of myself to be in the farce of those relationships. And while I will hold them accountable for the things, their actions, but that aside, I fell into those relationships, and I take that responsibility. I decided to be this person who I was not. I changed myself according to the person, and I behaved in that way exactly with them, because I knew if I didn't do this for them, they will not be with me, they will leave me. And I always functioned from that fear, to the point that I made myself incapable of taking decisions. I remember in my first relationship, after 2-3 years, I realized that while I hold this person really dear to me, I love him, but I am not in love with him, which was necessary to be in a romantic relationship. And I said that to him, but he convinced me to give it another try. And in my heart, I didn't want to. But that's, in hindsight, I realized I felt resistance, but I was just so incapable of taking my own decisions, so incapable of looking at myself and looking and figuring out what I need. I just went with it because I was so scared that if I didn't do this, they will be mad at me. And that became the center of all my action. I didn't want to make anybody else mad, so I was like, okay, I will compromise with my principles. I didn't have principles. I didn't know what I wanted, right? And it just took me from one heartbreak to another. You know, they played their parts. There were some shitty things they did, but there were some shitty things I did as well. And those are shitty things because I was not real. I was pretending to be something, which is one of the big reasons why in my romantic relationship, and oh my god, if my mom watches this, but no mom, I'm not a virgin. I had physical relationship with people, but in ways that I was not willing for, you know. I think to some extent, I felt like I was using sex because I felt like these people wanted that from me. And just to clarify, nobody forced me into anything. It was all consensual. But for me, it wasn't coming from the right place. It wasn't coming from a need for a sexual relationship, which I wanted, or a need for intimacy. It came from a point of fear that if I didn't engage in sexual activities with these people, they will leave me. And you know, not all of them initiated. Some of it I initiated, right? And that's why I say it was consensual. Like it's a little more complicated than a black and white of, okay, I didn't want to and they forced. No, nothing like that. Nobody forced anything on me. I went into it. Even if someone initiated, they always asked for permission. Nobody was, thankfully, while I was sexually assaulted as a child and have had the cases of eve teasing, but none of my partners forced themselves on me ever. Ever. But that being said, I basically used sex as a weapon because I felt like I'm a woman. And this is all internalized, by the way. I felt like I'm a woman, so I can use it to my advantage, and I did. And it's such a shitty thing to do, you know? I'm still trying to unlearn that, a lot of it, and unlearn that in my present relationship. That's one of the most beautiful relationship of my life, you know? I basically used my people pleasing to control others' opinions of me because I was just so scared of what they'll think of me, how they'll abandon me, you know? And it was all coming from a place of selfish need. I still want people to think the best of me, right? But I don't function from that agenda anymore. I'm free. I still get hurt when people say things that are not true about me, that they believe some real weird things about me. But, you know, somehow that doesn't bug me anymore because now instead of being people-pleasing, I work from my intention. I work from my intuition. And because I'm true to myself, even if people misunderstand me, I'm okay. Biggest example being my parents. Nobody in India will, just by hearing that a girl abandoned her parents, she doesn't respect them, she doesn't obey them, she doesn't have a good relationship with them, nobody will understand. Maybe Gen Zs and millennials would relate to, but even there'll be a lot of judgment. I will always be the villain of my story, right? Any relative who will hear it, they'll always villainize me, that I have gone out of hand, that I have stopped listening to people. I remember, like, when I was last in Delhi, when I was living with my Masi and stuff, one of the times, one of my mamas who live in US, who I'm not close to, we're just related, that's kind of about it. He called me up and he asked for a favor, right? And I refused to do it because I felt he asked for something and I didn't feel like doing it for him. I felt like I didn't owe him anything on anything. So I just said, no, I can't. I gave him an excuse of work, which was partially true. I did have some work. But I was just not willing to take that much of pain for him, right? It wasn't an entirely unreasonable request. It's nothing to do with the request. It's just that for that person, I wasn't willing to take the pains. And I remember that my mama basically is an uncle, my mother's brother. He made that comment to my mom or Masi, I'm not sure who, But he made that comment of me being weird because I didn't follow through his request. It was more of a demand, honestly. And that's the kind of thing I'm saying about anybody who has done even a little bit of this. Forget anybody who in any context have not agreed verbatim with their parents or relatives, they have had to hear this. Like, even when you agree with everything they say, they'll always have a criticism to give. And this is the criticism I received, that I have become weird. And it just didn't make sense to me. Why am I weird? I just said no to a request you had. If what's so weird about it, right? I still can't wrap my head around it. But my point is that I will be villainized. Nobody would want their, like, they will shield their children from me because I'll spoil them. I am this spoiled kid who says of it. Me admitting on camera that I have had physical relationship with people is controversy enough. You know, I was told when I was leaving from my home that I should. My mom, she has never given me a sex education session. She has never explained to me what the fuck sex is. But she had the balls to tell me when I was leaving from my college to never have sex. You don't have sex. That's the one thing she told me. Another thing she told me, but I don't want to say that right. So all these years, I pleased her. I was so ideal friends, girlfriends and everything. But nor was I happy, nor were these people. They had so many complaints with me. My mother, I thought by being obedient, she'll give me her unconditional love. But you know what? She never paid attention to me, not much. Only in the times where it looked good. Something that, some kind of will fulfillment, whenever that happened to her, she'll give me attention. And the other time I was mostly ignored. Right? And interestingly enough, since I have started rebelling, so to speak, I have received more attention than I have done. I have received in my whole life, which is such an ironic thing, by the way. All these failed relationships because I was pretending to be something I'm not. And today, fortunately, I have a partner who accepts my idiosyncrasies. You know, when I say someone needs to accept me, I don't mean they have to agree with everything I say. No, I want them to be honest with me. I want them to be real with me the way I am real with them, right? And that's how I am now. And unfortunately, I do not have a great relationship with my parents. I still want some kind of, like, I don't have that kind of relationship with anybody who's older to me anymore. And I crave that. I want some kind of elder person. And that's a weird way of saying it, but I don't know how else to articulate that. But in all these things, since I've started, pushing back to people, started taking space, I can see so much of difference in my life. I was so, like, people pleaser that, or even on the road when I was driving, I'll be in some corner trying to give space to everybody. And now I see in my day-to-day where I have become like, no, I'll drive in the middle of the road. Not recommended. Just a metaphor. My point is I have learned to take space, and by letting go of that people-pleasing costume that I wore, that pretense, that facade, I am able to, I'm able to receive the same things. I wanted close relationships. I have close relationships. I have some amazing people in my life. I have an amazing mentor. I have an amazing partner. And I'm not saying it to say it. I genuinely see that. And I used to believe, the people-pleasing self of me used to believe, if I be like this and if I receive all these things, I will be perfect. Life is not perfect. But life is more fun now. By being in my essence, by following through my intuition, things are way more scarier than they were before. I am taking stands where my body is telling me not to, because the body tells me that there's going to be consequence, I'll be fired, and this person will leave me. But I have learned the hard way that that's okay. The conflict is okay, and life is unpredictable anywho. So there is no point of worrying about anything. And it's far more important to live your truth in each and every moment than to please someone, than to make that kind of adjustment for anybody. You are here for a reason, and your intuition guides you. And on what that reason is, you just need to learn to listen to that intuition, which happens with loads and loads and loads of practice, which is what the intention of this channel is. And I want to organize events. I want to create a community where we are able to support each other in our journeys, because all our journeys will look different because everybody is different. Everybody is inherently different and our journeys will look different. So I want to have that community. I am organizing like 3-4 seminars each week on the same theme about different kinds of topics. And if people pleasing is something that you have struggled with or you're struggling with right now and this resonates with you, please join me on my seminar. I will be linking the link to it in the description, and I would love to see you there. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you like my channel, please subscribe, watch my other videos. If you have suggestions for me, please write to me. You can comment. There's email on the channel in the about page. Please go and email me or text me. Or if you have similar stories, and you would want to share them, I would love to host you on my channel. And if you feel shy about the camera, you can you can write to me a story and I can talk about that on the channel. Let me know. It would be lovely to meet more people who are on a similar journey. Thank you so much for